Stasis Hunter is one of those subclasses that feels like it's missing something. What if I told you there's a secret interaction with a mostly forgotten exotic that makes for one of the most active, freeze everything around you, champ stunning machines Stasis Hunter has ever seen? With a little bit of smart positioning and timing, this build will be able to find you success in almost every PvE endgame activity, including Grandmaster Nightfalls. Hey everyone, I'm Rozeki, and welcome to my build guide for the Bombardiers Stasis Hunter. If you're here for the first time, thanks for stopping in. I like to show off meta builds, as well as talk about Destiny 2 design, so if that's something you're interested in, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to get more videos just like this one sent straight into your YouTube feed. But with all that out of the way, let me introduce you to our Stasis Hunter build. Our build today has some unique choices that tend to be overlooked by most people when building a Stasis Hunter. Our build is going to be all about dodging near enemies to instantly slow and freeze them, and even shatter them if they're weak enough. We're going to set everything up around the special interaction between our exotic armor choice and a mostly underused stasis aspect. For our exotic armor, we'll of course be going with the Bombardiers. This exotic will leave behind an explosive after dodging that will detonate after a short delay. Depending on our equipped subclass, Bombardiers will also apply a bonus effect: Arc Blinds, Solar Scorches, Void Suppresses, Strand Severs, and Stasis Slows. Just at a surface level, Bombardiers provides us with an easy AoE slow by just dodging near enemies. Not a terrible effect, maybe a bit underwhelming, but here's what makes the effect insane. In order to freeze a target, we need to apply 100 slow stacks to them. Our Bombardiers alone only applies 40 stacks. So where does the remaining 60 stacks come from? Let's jump right into our first stasis aspect, Winter's Shroud. Winter's Shroud will apply exactly 60 stacks of slow to nearby targets when using your dodge. This is the key. By just dodging, not only do we activate our Winter's Shroud aspect to initially slow targets, but we also activate our Bombardier's delayed slow explosion at the same time, which applies the final 40 slow stacks, instantly freezing any enemy that got too close. Our ability to instantly slow and freeze targets is a huge offensive tool, as slowing overload champions will cause them to stun, and when we shatter a frozen unstoppable champion, they will also become stunned. Not to mention any other smaller enemies that will be easy to pick off once they are frozen as well. Defensively, this allows us to get out of a pinch, since we could easily dodge and freeze enemies to escape difficult situations. By giving ourselves easy ways to regain our dodge energy, as well as some other additional tools to give us some enhanced survivability, we can become almost unstoppable. I'm going to quickly go over our ability choices, since there aren't too many options here. Your dodge option can either be Marksman or Gambler's Dodge. Taking Gambler's Dodge provides you with more uptime on your Withering Blade melee, which gives you an additional way of applying slow to enemies. Maybe some enemies made it through our Bombardiers combo, so having this tool in your back pocket might provide an extra bit of consistency if you need it. Withering Blade also could be used to quickly clear out frozen enemies, so it can be used offensively as well. Our grenade choice is going to be Duskfield Grenades. Not only does it have the lowest cooldown of our grenade choices, but it also builds nicely into our slowing effects. Increasing our ways of slowing enemies will give us more and more consistency in quickly freezing targets. Let's get back to our aspects. We already went over Winter's Shroud, since it is a key component to making our instant freeze Bombardiers combo work. Out of the remaining 3 aspects, we will be going with Grim Harvest. Grim Harvest will create a stasis shard when defeating a slowed or frozen target. Since we will be slowing and freezing tons of enemies, this aspect will be generating tons of stasis shards for us. Combined with a fragment we will talk about soon, we will be getting both easy melee energy, as well as a bonus source of survivability from this. Speaking of fragments, let's go over our selections here. Starting off, let's talk about the fragments that will give us our extra survivability. We'll be taking advantage of stasis shard generation from our Grim Harvest aspect in combination with the Whisper of Rime fragment. Now, when we collect a stasis shard, we will not only gain melee energy, but will also be given a small overshield. If you are below maximum health, you will regain a small amount of health instead. This should give us that extra little boost that we need to stay alive, especially with the amount of stasis shards we'll be generating from our dodge, slow, freeze effect. In addition, we'll be taking another fragment that synergizes nicely with stasis shards, Whisper of Conduction. This fragment causes nearby shards to track to your position and also gives you some bonus stat points. This fragment is not 100% required, So if you decide to try another fragment in its place, that's also fine. Our final survivability fragment is Whisper of Chains. While standing near frozen targets or friendly stasis crystals, we have bonus resistance. Again, we should have a number of frozen targets after our dodge, so we will immediately benefit from the resist after dodging. Our remaining fragments enhance our slow and freeze effects. We'll be taking both Whisper of Durance to cause our slow stacks to linger for a longer period of time, and also Whisper of Refraction. Whisper of Refraction will return class ability energy for defeating slowed and frozen targets. This is super important, since it will give us a high uptime on our dodge, which, of course, is the catalyst for our massive AoE slow and freeze. More dodges means more freeze, which means more shards, giving us overshields, and then more dodges to keep the cycle going. With all our class options out of the way, we could talk about armor mods. Our mods are set up to allow for us to have as much uptime on our hunter dodge as possible. The main component of this is Utility Kickstart on our class armor. Utility Kickstart will provide us with bonus class ability energy after using our dodge, based on the amount of armor charge we've collected. You could choose to take either 1 or 2 copies of Utility Kickstart, but I find that a single copy should be enough to easily regain your dodge ability. 2 more mods that will help us regain class ability energy are Focusing Strike on our arms and Insulation on our legs. Focusing Strike will simply give us class ability energy when damaging a target with our powered melee, and Insulation will give us a small amount of class ability energy when we collect an Orb of Power. Also on our class item, we'll be taking a copy of Reaper, which creates an Orb of Power when defeating an enemy after dodging. This is a very consistent way to gain at least a single armor charge following our dodge combo. If we're talking about gaining armor charge, our leg armor has 2 great choices, and either one will fit nicely into the build. First up, we have Stacks on Stacks. This mod will give you a bonus armor charge for each Orb of Power you collect. Utility Kickstart will give increased ability energy back based on how much armor charge you have, so gaining bonus armor charge with Stacks on Stacks is a great choice. The other choice for mods is Elemental Charge. Elemental Charge has a chance of giving you an armor charge when collecting a stasis shard. With a single copy of Elemental Charge, you'll be getting a stack of armor charge about every 4 stasis shards you collect. With the number of stasis shards that we're making from Grim Harvest, we should be able to consistently gain a large amount of armor charge after completing our dodge combo. Again, either Elemental Charge or Stacks on Stacks will work, so it is up to you to decide exactly which one feels best for you. Our other Orb of Power generating mods will come in the form of a Siphon mod on your helmet, and at least 1 copy of Heavy Handed on your arms. These will create Orbs of Power when defeating enemies with our weapons and powered melee, respectively. We choose not to take Firepower since our Duskfield Grenade will not usually be picking up any kills on enemies. My final recommendation is to also take a copy of Dynamo on your helmet. This way, we can also get a little extra super energy when dodging near enemies. Since we'll be doing a lot of that anyway, it makes sense to use Dynamo to bring back our super a little bit quicker as well. The remaining mods are general options that pretty much every other build takes. Resist mods on your chest armor, and a few copies of healing mods like Recuperation on your legs. Any additional mod slots you have can be filled with anything of your choosing. Now for my weapon recommendations. This build is not as reliant on specific weapons, like my Arc Warlock build was. Our dodge combo is pretty self-contained, and all of our ability regen comes from our subclass options and armor mods. Weapons can usually be picked to match the current activity's anti-champion requirements. If I was to recommend something, however, I would say to take a weapon with the Headstone perk, like the craftable Disparity Pulse Rifle, or a weapon that applies slow, like the Aegir Scepter Exotic Trace Rifle. With all the build options out of the way, how do we actually play the build? This build excels at close range AoE crowd control. The build can be played as a hybrid between offensive and defensive gameplay. Playing aggressively requires you to find the best opportunities to rush into a group of enemies. On lower difficulties, you should have no problems rushing headfirst into the fray. Strikes, dungeons, and seasonal activities should stand no chance against this aggressive playstyle. However, when attempting higher difficulty content, such as Grandmaster Nightfalls, you have to master the art of sneaking in and avoiding too much enemy aggro. Once you are close enough to perform your hunter dodge, you're safe. Dodging will immediately slow enemies, and after a very short delay, they will all freeze, making them easy to defeat. Again, the trickiest part to make this rush in and dodge strategy work is to get in safely without taking too much damage. Unstoppable champions will be the biggest challenge in something like a Grandmaster Nightfall, since they require you to shatter them before they are fully stunned. Champions are also going to be notoriously difficult to rush at due to their high damage output. If you can master the challenge of facing champions aggressively, they will be no issue to take down. The slow applied from the Winter Shroud aspect will instantly stun overloads, and shattering an unstoppable with the Bombardiers explosion will stun them as well. For extra safety, you could opt to throw your Dusk-filled grenade at a group of enemies first to keep them slowed before rushing in. Playing defensively is also an option. You could choose to use this build to get out of bad situations very easily. Enemies rushing you? Dodge to freeze them in their tracks. Need to stop enemies out of your dodge range? Throw a Dusk-filled grenade or use your powered melee for a ranged slow. I personally prefer the more active playstyle, but knowing when to use your combo defensively is key to surviving tough situations. Other key notes for using the build is that your powered melee is great for taking out large groups of frozen targets. One powered melee should be enough to shatter an entire group after you perform your dodge, or your melee can be used to apply the final bit of slow to targets that may have narrowly avoided our Bombardiers combo. Also, make sure to collect stasis shards since they are the key to our extra survivability due to our Whisper of Rhyme, giving us a bit of extra health or an overshield. Although a tricky build to learn, once you understand the best times to rush in for massive AoE freezes, when to play defensively, and how to best use every part of your kit, you will be able to find success constantly dodging in and freezing all enemies in your path. Bombardiers has flown under the radar, but it might just be the new best exotic that Stasis Hunter has to offer. So, what did you think of the build? Are you ready to try it for yourself? If so, I've left a dim loadout link in the video description so you can get up and running with the build as quickly as possible. I look forward to seeing what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and also comment down below with your thoughts. I'll be trying my best to find some really fun and unique off-meta builds to showcase in future videos. But I think that's all I've got for now. As always, I've been Rizeki, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.